All right, let's get right into it. The SAT has gone digital, and if you're kind of feeling like the old rules just don't apply anymore, well, you're right. So today, we're going to crack the code on this brand new test using a really powerful way of thinking that comes straight from the experts over at UC San Diego. You know, for years, test prep was all about memorizing tons of facts and formulas. But the game has totally changed. The new digital SAT, it demands a much more flexible, strategic way of thinking. And let's be real, the old playbook might not be enough to get you into a place that looks like this anymore. Yeah, you've probably heard the buzz. The new test is shorter, which sounds great, right? But it's also adaptive. That means the questions actually change based on how you're performing in real time. This creates a whole new kind of pressure, and honestly, it requires a completely new way to prepare. So here's our game plan. We're going to quickly break down what's new. Then I'm going to introduce you to your secret weapon for pretty much any question they can throw at you. We'll even see it in action with a tricky math problem, talk about the best way to practice, and then we'll wrap up with one final key takeaway.
First things first, let's get a really clear picture of this new landscape. What really makes the digital SAT such a different beast?
Okay, so the biggest thing by far is that it's adaptive. You get a question right, the next one might get a bit tougher, you stumble on one, the next might get a little easier. This makes how you do on those early questions super important. And yeah, the test is shorter, but you've absolutely got to get comfortable with the new on-screen tools, like the calculator and the highlighter, if you want to be fast and efficient.
All right, so with all these changes, you need a system. I'm not talking about a random collection of tips you find online, but a real framework for how to think. And, well, this is it.
Seriously, just imagine for a second, looking at any question, whether it's math, reading, or writing, and knowing instantly what it's really asking and the absolute fastest way to solve it. That's the promise of what's called the signal/response method.
So what is this thing? It's actually a really simple two-step process. First, you learn to spot the signal. These are the clues hidden inside the question, the wording, and even the answer choices. Then, you just execute the response. That's the specific strategy that the signal is telling you to use. It's all about turning every question into a pattern that you can recognize.
Let's dig a little deeper. The signal isn't just one thing. It's the whole package. The exact way a question is phrased, what the answer choices look like, the format of the problem. Your job is to become a kind of detective to spot these clues. And once you do, you'll know exactly which tool to pull out of your toolkit. And that is the response.
Okay, theory is great, but let's see this thing in action. Let's make it real. We'll jump into the math section, where this method can save you a ton of time and, just as importantly, help you avoid those silly mistakes.
We're going to zoom in on a classic strategy that gets a major upgrade with this framework, plugging in the answer choices. Now, some of you have probably heard of this one, but the real key is knowing exactly when to use it.
So, here we go. A pretty typical algebra problem. Now, your first instinct, the old way of doing things, might be to just dive in and start rearranging that messy equation, right? But wait, let's pause for a second and look for the signals. And boom, this is where the method just shines. What are the signals here? Signal number one, the question asks, which of the following is a possible value of x? That's a massive clue. Signal number two, look at those answer choices. They're just nice, clean, simple numbers. Those two signals together are practically screaming at you, stop, don't do a bunch of complicated algebra, just plug in the answers.
So let's execute the response. We'll try answer A. We plug in 2 for x. On the left, we get 7. On the right, we get 9. Nope, 7 does not equal 9, so A is out. Let's move on to B. We plug in 3. On the left, 11 minus 6 is 5. On the right, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And there it is, 5 equals 5. It's true. We found the answer, and we are done. See that? No messy algebra, way less chance of a calculation error, so much faster.
And listen, this is so much more than just a cool math trick. This same framework works everywhere. For example, in the reading and writing section, if you see a question where all the answer choices are just different punctuation, like a comma, a semicolon, a period, that's a signal to use a specific grammar rule. If a reading question asks what a word most nearly means, that's a signal to use a vocabulary and context strategy. Every single part of this test has these patterns.
So, this framework is awesome, but how do you actually get good at using it?
Well, a great system is kind of useless without smart practice. So let's talk about the tools you really need to be using.
Okay, the number one non-negotiable tool you need is the official Bluebook app. This isn't just about doing some practice questions.
It's about simulating the real experience so you can feel what test day is actually like. You have to get comfortable with the digital tools and the pacing, but most importantly, you need to use your scores to hunt down your weak spots.
And then, once Blue Book has done its job and shown you where the gaps are, that's your cue to go to Khan Academy. It's free, and because it's an official partner, all of its material is perfectly matched to the real test. You can do laser-focused exercises on the exact skills you need to build up, turning those weak spots into your new strengths.
All right, let's bring it all home. If you remember just one single thing from all this, I want it to be this huge shift in mindset.
I think this quote from Edward Abita at UC San Diego just nails it. Look, the point isn't to be intimidated by this new test. It's about embracing the challenge and walking in there with a whole new level of confidence, because you know you have a strategy that actually works.
Because at the end of the day, the digital SAT isn't just a test of your algebra or grammar knowledge. It's a test of how you think, how well you can spot patterns and solve problems efficiently. It's a giant puzzle, and the signal/response method, that's the key. You literally have the key to solve it. So the only question left is, are you ready?